My favorite holiday. I love it. Yeah. Very thankful for everything I have.
You watched all those games yesterday?
Watched a good bit of them. Yeah, I watched a good bit of them. Some good games. A lot of situational football in a bunch of them. So
Ask about. I think there was a block out of bounds penalty on the Steelers in the last game on Mike Ford. I'm just kind of curious what the spirit of the rule and kind of like what the thinking is there. Is it like, is there any leeway with when you have to kind of disengage and where you kind of teach your players with that?
yeah, that block or that penalty, I should say, was pretty egregious. Um, it was excessive, I would say. And for us, we teach our players once the gunner is out of bounds, like you're not even allowed to contact the opponent once they're out of bounds. So, he clearly was way out of bounds. He was on the bench. So,
Mims, how dangerous is he? And, just when you're talking about your coverage units, what do you have to do to make sure he's contained?
yeah, really good returner, smooth runner, long stride, very, very good top end speed. It almost looks like he's just effortlessly running and he just outruns everyone. Consistently does a good job getting to the edge. So we're going to have to do a good job of leveraging the football. And obviously it's a big game for our punter.
Punt rush on that final punt of theirs. Can you just talk about how pivotal that was for you guys?
Yeah, we got good pressure. Obviously, with the conditions and the game's played a lot different once the footing ends up being like that. So the protection, becomes an issue. The operation takes longer. So we felt that was the best option for us at that point, and those guys executed well. So force a miss hit and then give our offense good field position. Credit our defense, obviously, for the stop. And then our offense went down and we scored on that drive. So it was a good, I would say, example of complementary football from OD and special teams all, contributing together.
Dustin told us after the New Orleans game that he thought he'd kind of figured something out at halftime of that game.
Yeah.
He made the field goal against Pittsburgh. So, do you guys kind of think he figured out what was causing him problems?
Yeah, I think he did. He communicated with me after that and said that he felt like he knew what was going on as far as his footwork. So he applied that to the next game, and we did a good job against Pittsburgh hitting our kicks. So
Is kicking field goals any different in that Denver era than it is elsewhere?
the ball carries further with the elevation. I remember we were out there when I was coaching in New England, and Steve Guskowski were practicing at Colorado Springs at the Air Force Academy, and he hit a 70-yard field goal in pre-practice. So Tom Brady was supposed to buy him a car, and he never did. I have it on video, too.
When you look at your coverage units, I'm sure that when you give up a big one, you're not happy about it. So when you look at some of the ones you've given up, is there a common theme to what the issues have been?
Yeah, on the ones that we've given up some yards on, I would say our leverage overall has to be better. Playing outside into the ball, getting your leverage earlier in the down, and if you get your leverage too late in the down, you're just in a bad spot. You're working out to get back in. Ideally, you'd like to work outside in on the reps. So we got to do a better job of eliminating those types of plays.
To Dustin, when he is in a stretch like this, he always talks about the process. He seems like a very process-driven guy. Is that
Yeah.
how most kickers are? Is he different at all from guys you've worked with?
No, I think most guys have their, quote, process. His is pretty extensive. I think he's very routinized with how he practices and the rhythm that he gets into. He doesn't hit a million balls in practice like that. He does a good job monitoring himself with his reps, and I think we've done a good job in being strategic in his practice reps and volume throughout the week, and I think that's enabled him to have pretty good results. Yeah, he's missed some kicks this year. It hasn't been as consistent as we would want, but I think right now he's in a good spot. Especially after making the corrections from the New Orleans game into the next game, and then hopefully the rest of the way we just hit our stride.
Well, you had Kadarius up for the New Orleans game, but it was Elijah who was back returning punts. Was Kadarius up basically as a receiver, and do you feel like there's a chance that he could work into the return game more going forward?
Yeah, he can definitely factor in. He's done it at times in his career, and I think in that game specifically, we felt like Elijah was a better option for the situation in the game. But I think he gives you a threat back there with the ball. He's a good runner with the ball, has good vision, quickness. KT's got a really good job, does a really good job of being able to make guys miss in a short area and then burst out of that. And I think that he would definitely be an option moving forward if he were at the game.
Kevin said you weren't ready to try a field goal before that, whatever, 4th down against Pittsburgh late in the snow. Like, how difficult is that to decide where you're comfortable with Dustin kicking in those kind of conditions?
Well, first it was hard to see like the area of the field, so I was, you're counting the lines to see where the ball's at, and obviously it has it on the scoreboard, but you're trying to see it on the field, like how many more yards you need. Obviously there was a wind coming at us. The field conditions are a concern, obviously, with the snow and the footing of the actual kick. Naturally, all that affects the kick. It affects the elevation of the kick. It affects the timing of the operation. So a lot of things factor into it. I think that had we gained a handful more yards, we would have been in a better spot to attempt it. Could we have attempted it at that distance? Yeah. But I think that we were more comfortable of how we handled it, and then we're ready to kick if we needed it. So
For Corey to catch that ball and place it when the wind's blowing and snow's flying like that.
That's why you have to practice in the elements. You have to, like, when we practice outside, I love it, so because it gives your guys a true feel on how the ball feels. Like, even watching the Green Bay game last night, like, and I know Miami, obviously they played in the South and it's warm and all that stuff. They don't see a lot of elements, but the ball feels different whenever you're playing in cold weather and windy weather. It just does. And the way that the ball feels when it's wet is different than obviously when it's dry. So the reps that you can get in the elements, I think, help you in those situations. And fortunately, we practice outside. We've handled the ball. We did, even in that game, even at the end of the week, Kevin had our whole team do wet ball drills post-practice. I think it was Thursday. Like, everybody had to get X amount of balls caught on both sides, offense, defense, kicking game. So everybody was handling the ball, and we got it in our private session as well with the kickers. So,
kicking elements. How do you adjust for? You mentioned the ball traveling farther in Denver. How do you adjust for that in terms of coverage? Return, that all of those things. How do you kind of take that into account as you're planning?
Yeah, and just to your question, it's we take it into account, and we understand that the ball could carry further, so you may have to have a different type of call up or return up because of those things. So yeah, those are always things that we'll always factor in. We stay on top of the weather, the conditions, where we're playing. Obviously you play outside and it's colder. You play inside, there's no weather. Everything factors in, and every decision's made based off of what you're going to get in those game situations. All right, guys, thanks.
It was good. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. How about you? Good. Good. Not a bad ordering of agenda right there. That's for sure.
Seen Jameis Winston evolve during his 4 starts here.
I think, the big thing is he's getting more and more comfortable just operating the offense, more and more comfortable with the guys around him, his receivers, his tight ends, backs, body language, how they're running routes against the different looks and those types of things. So I think all those things kind of help as a quarterback, because reps, especially game reps, really add up. And I think obviously with his experience in this league, that has helped him to be able to just step in and be efficient, be a guy who could come in and operate our offense and do good things for us. Just being able to rely on that experience that he's had.
Challenge it will be to go against the #1 sacking team in the NFL, and just how good they are on the back end as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a really good defense. Vance does a great job with those guys. They're aggressive, not only in style of play, but also individuals on their team. They've got a lot of guys who can rush the passer. When you look at it, it's not just one guy. It's multiple guys, both on the outside and inside. And then Vance does a great job getting them in position to do that, and creating matchups, creating opportunities for those guys, whether it's the front variations, whether it's the different pressure variations and things like that. And then obviously I think that pass rush allows those outside guys to be extremely effective as well. And obviously they got one of the best corners in the league out there. They're talented around him as well in the secondary. So it's a great challenge. It's a very good challenge for us, and you've got to be on your point. You got to be on on top of your stuff. You got to be able to get in and out of the huddle quickly to give yourself time at the line of scrimmage, and do those types of things to make sure that you're maximizing your opportunities.
Going back to Jameis a little bit and that comfortability, is that showcasing in the way he's being able to spread the ball around to a lot of different guys, because he feels more confident that when I throw the ball to this guy or that guy, that they're going to catch it?
Yeah, and I think that's part of that is just he's got confidence in those guys too. I think that's a big part of it is, he's got a lot of faith in the guys that are out there playing for him and working with them. But I do think those reps and obviously he was able to get some of those in OTAs and things like that. Stacking some of those reps with those guys early on. But I do think, the more reps you get with guys, the better. That experience that he has, being able to come in and whether it's what defenses are trying to do and the adjustments that he could kind of make in game really helps spread that ball around as well. And I think that's important. You want to be able to spread the ball around. You want to be able to attack with different guys in different ways so that they can't just focus on one guy.
What about seeing Nick get those couple of touchdowns and the way he was able to hold up out there when the weather got nasty and guys are slipping and sliding and everything?
No, it was a lot of fun to see. I mean, I love the fact that he's really been able to come on and keep, getting better and better. And I think more and more confident, I hope, out there in terms of, himself and the scheme and what we're doing. And it was a lot of fun to see him out there, and not only scoring the first touchdown, just kind of, just old school smash mouth football, but also the second, in the conditions. And the run before that was just as impressive. The push the pile, the effort by him and the rest of the group. It was a lot of fun to watch, especially in that type of game.
From Jeudy's on pace to have a career year here. Just what have you seen from him as far as his growth this season and why he's kind of been able to come along so well with Jameson quarterback?
I think one thing is he's very smart. He does a great job just feel of the game, understanding of coverages, but then also being able to move him around into different places. We could play him inside, we could play him outside, X, Z, slot, whatever it is. So having that flexibility is huge to be able to move a guy of his caliber around, to do different things with him. So that's one thing that's big. obviously just the physical skill set that he has. I mean, he's got the ability to run with speed, get in and out of cuts, great body control, and wiggle in his routes, to where he could kind of give the DB a little bit of something and then still be able to get in and out of cuts. So I do think that he's really grown as the year's gone on, not only in just number of catches, but confidence and I think that's confidence for him, but also the quarterbacks, I think, have a ton of confidence in him as well to give him those opportunities.
How important his versatility has been, the fact that he can take a short pass and go or catch a deep one. Did you know that about him before you were around him, and I guess what makes him able to do everything you need him to do?
Yeah, I mean, you see some of those things on tape, but I think I definitely think he's surprised us in a lot of good ways in terms of what he can handle mentally. The run after catch stuff has been really good for us, and that's a huge part of this league. Is you've got to be able to turn some of those short passes into longer gains and skip some third downs with rack opportunities and things like that. So that's been really a great thing for us, just with his ability to do that, to go out and win one-on-one matchups. And I do think that's a litmus test for receivers. Can you go out and win press man coverage, against good DBs in this league? And hopefully he can continue to do that.
Has had highs and lows this season. The past couple weeks, how have you seen them kind of fare as you guys have been piecing things together and dealing with some injuries as well?
Just talking overall offense. Yeah, I mean, I think that's just the way the NFL is sometimes. Obviously, we're not in the position we wanted to be in early in the year, but we've got a group that has a lot of pride, a group that's continued to work and work incredibly hard. I think they look to the leaders for a lot of that, and we've got good leadership in the locker room, and I think Jameis has done a nice job at the quarterback position, bringing some energy, bringing those types of things. So I do think, that when you're in a tough position, it's like life, it really is. You get knocked down in life, you get punched in the gut sometimes, but it's how you respond to it. Can you come back? You got kids to feed at home. You can't just lay there. It's the same thing for us in this locker room, in this building. We got to keep fighting no matter what situation we're in. And that's us as an offense. Yeah, it hasn't always been perfect, and it hasn't been exactly the way we want, but we're going to keep working and keep fighting to make sure that we get it to where it needs to be as the year goes on, no matter what situation we're in, no matter what our record is in. And that's what we're going to pride ourselves on, and that's what we're going to do.
You guys have to do things like turn a backup linebacker into a fullback or move a guard out to tackle or tight end. What's the process? Do you ask for volunteers? Does somebody bring it up in a meeting? What's the process of getting that stuff going?
Yeah, we put names in a hat, and then honestly, a lot of that is just kind of who's been around the roster. Obviously, being new this year, I think Kevin's got a great feel for the roster and who can do some of those things. So you're always looking for those guys, and fortunately, we've got a couple of guys that can kind of fill in and down the goal line, go like a bat out of hell and try to clean up a hole and open something up. So it's good. It's good versatility. It's good and it's also good for us when you get some jumbo tight ends in there as linemen to get them in there, because it gets them reps. It gets them opportunities to execute against, opposing defenses for younger guys to, build their game as well and develop themselves. So I think it provides a lot of different advantages. Hey, to a defense, what are they going to do? Can they run it? Can they throw it? What are they going to do in these looks? But then also it helps develop those guys as well. And that flexibility is really big for us.
Jameis Winston said he wants to be back here next year. So how could he develop more in the offense a second year into it and maybe come in as a starter?
Yeah, and I really appreciate the question. We're just so focused on this week. I think that stuff is just gonna take care of itself in the off season and everything. I think the more reps you get as you go, the better off you're going to be, and you'll continue to grow as a player. So I think no matter what the situation is, we're just going to continue to focus our jobs this week, and Jameis will continue to grow as a player, whether it's this week, next week, or in the off season, whatever that situation is.
Defense for a second. When you know they are such a sack-heavy defense, do you have to, from a protection standpoint, is that an added emphasis, or do you just kind of continue to build on what you have been doing and make sure all the other elements are working together, or do you like kind of really hone in on that aspect of it?
No, good question. I mean, every week is so different because they pose different challenges, especially when you're playing teams that they can rush the passer. Are those pass rushers interior guys, or are they exterior guys? Are the pressures through blitz packages and whatnot? So those are all things that you got to evaluate and then develop your game plan around those different things. So yeah, it definitely could change week to week based off of what you're seeing. And then there's some core principles that are always within your offense that you have probably in each and every week to help with that as well.
Zed's going to practice today, but if he's still in the protocol and can't play, like who would you look for to step up, and how comfortable with those guys that, if it's Jamari or Kadarius, whoever it is, haven't played a bunch for you offensively?
Yeah, I mean, we'll take that day by day and see where we're at, but it's the same mentality you got to have each and every week. If somebody can't go, then the next guy has to step up, and I'm sure said does so much for us, and if we do have to have other guys fill in, then it'll be a rotation of guys doing some different things, not just a one-man show. And I think that's what we really try to focus on, no matter who's available to us, is a little variety, mixing things up so that one guy isn't locked into doing one specific thing. Cool. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.